There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, The Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, except Novel Bro just gave me a title in the chat that I kind of like. It's Lord Bishop Ayrton.
Oh,
I think I might. I think I might want to go by that name from now on.
I will not be calling you Lord anything, sir. But enough about you. We actually have a guest in the digital virtual studio with us today. Ryan Haack, is that how you pronounce it?
Haack.
Haack, Ryan Haack. See, I was really
Yes.
hoping it was Hack
Yep.
because that rhymes so well with Bric-a-Brac.
It does. Oh, actually, I've never thought of that, but you're right. It does. That would be like a perfect kind of thing going there.
I mean, I
Well,
based
we're
my
calling
entire...
you Ryan Hack from now on, then.
Well, I guess that's probably not the best thing to call a creator. You don't want to call a creator a hack by name.
Exactly.
But no,
That's true.
we're joined
Good
in
point.
the digital studio by Ryan Haack, one of the creators of Bric-a-Brac,
Mhm.
which is live on Indiegogo, and the subject of tonight's show. However, well, not however. Anyway, how are you doing tonight, sir? Sorry,
I am great.
I haven't
It's
started
been a pretty
drinking
good
my whiskey
day,
yet.
so.
It loosens up.
Yeah,
as
I'm
I
doing
go
really
on.
good.
Well, that's good to hear. So while we get everything set up on this end before we pull everything up, why don't you tell us how you got into comics? Like, have you been a fan since you were a kid? Are you kind of new to comics as you've gotten older? What got you into the medium of the whole?
I've been a. Let's see. I didn't start at a really young age. I think the first book I maybe read was like Kingdom Come or something that I thought had really interesting artwork and or Batman Long Halloween. I don't know how I acquired it. I think I was at a Barnes and Noble and I just picked it up and I really fell in love with, like, obviously Tim Sale is like an amazing artist, and so that's a really great first artist to kind of suck you into comic books, right? Because he has such a powerful he has a great understanding of just how books are supposed to look, but also having a very unique style. So yeah, The Long Halloween was my first comic book that I really liked. And I think from there I just started reading a lot of Batman stuff. And luckily this was around the time the New 52 happened, which, I mean, some people might think the New 52 sucks, but there were some really good books in there, like Patrick Gleason's Batman and Robin, and then Scott Snyder's Batman, obviously, of course, and then Aquaman and all those kinds of books that, I could start from number one. And I just fell in love with some of those books. I really dug just, how the idea of the New 52 is starting over. So, that's kind of what started me reading comics. And then when I really thought, hey, I would really like to do this, I just started kind of writing scripts, and I got into this thing called Comics Experience, which you guys might know about. It's on an online comic book, kind of writing, lettering, and artistry, and editing, actually, also teaching service online, headed by Andy Schmidt, who is he was an editor for like Transformers and wrote a lot of Transformers video games over at IDW, and then also edited Annihilation and a lot of stuff over at Marvel. So he has a lot of clout, and he's a really amazing teacher. And I took a intro to writing course with him, and from there, I just kept writing comic book scripts. And eventually I got enough money through, just, washing dishes and, in high school and stuff like that to get some pages done. And, that was two years ago now. And so, yeah, I've been actively producing comics with artists for 2 years, pretty much nonstop. So that's where I have come today. And this is my first full, Bric-a-Brac is truly my first like full length story, kind of thing, because a lot of the stories that I've been writing are short stories because it's easier to collaborate with someone with a short story. But this is truly my first longer work. So it's a new challenge and a very exciting one. But yeah, that's kind of how I've got to where I am today.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, this is going to be a really easy interview for me because I asked you one question and you answered the next 5 that I had. That was awesome. I was going to ask
fast with that route.
Yeah, No, I was going to ask if you had been involved in other projects and what some of the previous stuff that you had worked on with. Because, I think I had seen some short some pages that weren't part of Bric-a-Brac when I was just kind of trolling through your Twitter feed, and I saw some art that didn't look like it was connected with it because it fell like before that time frame when you started launching it. But yeah, I was going to ask about that. So you've been basically you've been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, my first Kickstarter campaign was a Kickstarter campaign, and Kickstarter's, it's fine. I think it has it gives an incentive, especially with this book. It kind of saved my butt because I wasn't supposed to make the goal, but that last day, it's true. There's an incentive on Kickstarter, and there's a lot more backers. So that really did save my butt. So basically, my first campaign was called Unspeakable Text, and it's an anthology series of stories I all wrote. And it was a 75-page collection of 11 short stories, all drawn by different artists, but all written by me. And these stories, they're horror stories with kind of twist endings, mysterious endings, and they're really fun to write. And, like I said, too, doing short stories is really easy to collaborate with people. You know what I'm saying? It's very quick collaboration. Instead of saying, oh, we're going to make this massive thing, I just wanted to master how do I work with all these different artists and fine-tune my scripts and really get to forming relationships with new artists. And it was an awesome thing, and I can't wait to do another one of those too. So that was my first Kickstarter, really crowdfunding anything. And that obviously, as you guys probably know, is a hugely stressful, otherworldly challenge to take on. You know what I mean? It's like it is totally rough and not for the faint of heart. It'll take a pound of flesh. It's really difficult to do crowdfunding these days, and just at all. But yeah, I'm here with my second one. We ran it on Kickstarter and made our goal, but someone dropped out with some pretty major funds. So we're just back on Indiegogo because of demand, and also because we need some fun to get some more funds. So
right.
Yeah.
Your audio is apparently outdoing ours. I'm gonna need you to tone it back. You can't have good equipment. We're working off tin cans here. But seriously,
ask me anything. Sorry.
Oh no, you're
fine. So this artist you're working with on this is somebody you've worked with on some of your other projects?
Actually, no.
Is that what I gathered?
This is our first. This is our first ever project together. Raphael and I, our first ever project together. Yep.
So one thing that I wanted to say before I was so rudely interrupted. But no. After the show, we're gonna have to talk about if there's a way that I can potentially procure one of those anthologies, because that sounds amazingly interesting. I have never read an anthology that was written by a solo creator before. I don't think.
Yeah, that was an interesting. Yeah, I honestly didn't know that wasn't the thing that people did, but yeah, I mean, they were all written by me, and you could definitely see they're all in different time periods, all with different subject matter. and obviously in different places. So there's a pirate story, a cowboy story, Victorian. It's a very cool book, and can't wait to make more. It was a really fun thing. So yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that sounds amazingly interesting. So I guess we can go ahead and pull this up for the people. And oh come on, okay, there we go. So here we have Bric-a-Brac #1, Fantasy Christmas Story. Nutcracker Armies,
Yes.
Good King, Wenceslas. You'll have to excuse me. I'm from the South, which means English is my second language. But and Yuletide creatures wage war on planet Christmas. So
Yep.
I kind of have a policy when I'm doing a show with someone. I actually don't do a deep dive on their Indiegogos because I really enjoy kind of going through it when I have access to that creator to be able to go through it piece by piece and talk about the minutia
I like
and the
that.
nuance. So
Yeah.
I don't want to go into
I
it
like
with
that.
a bias. I kind of like the idea
Yeah, I
of
just
giving
pulled it
you
up
my
now, to be honest with you.
yeah. So I've looked at it, and what initially, when you initially messaged me, and I didn't know, I was looking at your campaign because you messaged me about our interview with Gilbert Deltrez for Grom, and I got to looking through here, and I started kind of peeking through it, and I got to some of these art pages, and the first thing that hit me was it reminds me of some of the art from like I Hate Fairies and
Hmm.
Little X-Men versus Little Avengers or something like that. AVX.
Yeah. Scotty Young kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did both of those books, and it reminded me of that. But then I got down to your character designs, and that kind of blew me away. I talked a little bit about it on our Thursday show before we got Novel Bro in the chat. Damn, an evil nutcracker, you have my attention, sir. Um, but yeah, the
Yes.
nutcracker itself is probably one of the most interesting looking character designs that I've ever seen. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean, I've
everything
always
about
been
it is.
obsessed with.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
If I
Oh
start
yeah. I've always.
Yeah,
Sorry. What?
if I start talking and you're still like saying something and you just needed a breath, just talk over me. I'll shut up. I come
Oh,
from
I
an
was just
era where
saying. I really. I've always loved Nutcrackers. So, when it came time to kind of create like an iconic villain, I was like, oh, it has to be. It has to be this. It has to be this guy. I think they're definitely evil looking. There's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're creepy.
They're creepy as hell. Like they really are. But they also, but the Nutcracker, the ballet is totally not that. Like the Nutcracker is supposed to be this heroic figure, but it's kind of a flip on that, right? So it's
Right.
it's
Yeah.
an interesting kind of thing there.
well from just from the look of it, like it's got all of the features of a nutcracker you would expect. Like it's got the dress, it's got the mustache and the facial hair, the big rosy cheeks, the funny hat. But you definitely convey the menacing look of it just in this piece particularly. Your artist is phenomenal in pulling out that detail, and
Yep.
I can only imagine and I guess that kind of leads
I,
into the next question.
I
Like,
love the candy canes like stuck in his mutton chops
Yeah.
slash
Yeah.
hair.
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
so my first question in regard to this particular campaign, I guess, would be what what gave you the idea to do a Planet Christmas story? Like, where did that come from? I mean, I know that you kind of get into it down further. I saw some photos down here, so maybe we can go to that and look at that here.
Yeah, for sure.
So
So the question is, where did the idea come from, kind of?
right.
Yeah.
What it says here is
Um,
that you're the creator of Bric-a-Brac. You successfully funded the Unspeakable Tech Volume 1 and part of Bric-a-Brac campaign over on Kickstarter, and you're confident with our help you can make the goal on Indiegogo. You always write stories that are personal to you, and this one is especially personal because it connects to your early fascination with Christmas. And you've got some family photos
mhm.
here where you're dressed
Yep.
up in some Christmas garb, and then we have some
Yes.
information on your artist. So yeah,
Yeah.
where did you get the idea for a Planet Christmas though? Like
Well, I was definitely a huge fan of like the Rankin and Bass, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty, all, Little Drummer Boy, Jack Frost, all those puppet kind of movies. I loved them as a kid, and I've always had an obsession with Christmas, like I said. And I always wanted to kind of make a story that's like Rudolph, and with the heart of Rudolph, but meshed with an intergalactic Star Wars kind of idea, and also, I think that another thing that inspired this story was definitely Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's kind of about that meshing of two worlds that aren't supposed to be together.
right.
And one just happens to be Christmas. So
Okay.
definitely, and it's in a kind of a mesh of these two worlds that really shouldn't be together. And it actually speaks of kind of a deeper conflict, because it's not a happy world. I mean, there's a lot of factions who are at war for resources, so it's not a happy place anymore. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. A war for resources on Planet Christmas in my head. It makes me laugh just because I'm thinking like peppermint mines, and like tinsel, like reservoirs.
I mean, you gotta have real
water
resources.
reservoirs.
You gotta have real resources too. What do you think makes all those toys, man?
Yeah. Well, actually, the resource is called, like, there's a physical form of like kind of like how there's the Force. There is Christmas spirit, right? And so Christmas spirit itself is like manifested in different places, and where there's more. It's all around. And so the Nutcrackers have found that people on other planets really can use, like, they can actually use their Christmas spirit and make amazing machines and make it's a technology, essentially, right? It's almost like, what is it in Wakanda? What is it called?
Vibranium.
Vibranium.
Yeah, it's almost like that to other planets, right? So it's just
it's like like the God element, or like
exactly
something like that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So these other planets, they are in trade for the Christmas spirit, giving the Nutcrackers weapons so that they can dominate Planet Christmas. So that's where it comes. And General Almond, his goal is, who's the main antagonist. His goal is to definitely take over Planet Christmas, because he's kind of crazy, right? So he's just one of the many cogs in the war. A lot of people have different goals, different ideas of how they, think Planet Christmas should be run. And so it's just a really fascinating story, an epic story, really.
So far, I've loved every word that's come out of your mouth in regards to the story. So,
here's the thing. He said something about the Force.
To be kind of a Scrooge, but
he said something about the Force. So I'm just going to need this Santa Claus character that we're going to see in a minute to have a lightsaber, if that's possible. I'm going to need that to happen.
Yeah, that would be awesome, right? That would be awesome.
I'm sure George Lucas would be
the blade
knocking
should come
on
out
your
in the
door.
shape of a.
I have to say that the Nutcracker, he throws down in this he against Jack Frost. There is an epic battle between, and it's in the second issue. This is only the first issue, but it's in the second issue. But it's alluded to. There is an epic battle between Jack Frost and the main Nutcracker. So you'll just have to see. And the main Nutcracker has a sword and weapons that the space pirates have given him. So that's something you guys don't want to miss. That is an epic battle right there. So yeah.
So the first part of the campaign
Space
here,
pirates battle between a Nutcracker and Jack Frost. Come on, what else could you guys ask in the chat?
Well, the first part of the campaign here says that Bric-a-Brac #1 is a 30-page full-color comic book, and the first part of a 3-part epic. So you're going for a 90-plus page story here, from what I'm guessing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, 100. The plan is to be 100, maybe even 20.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, and then of course with the third one we're going to collect it. I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, the things don't always work out like they should, but that's the goal.
I definitely feel that. The goal is on The goal of this Indiegogo campaign is to fund the rest of production, printing, and shipping of the comic book that wasn't completed over on Kickstarter. Pledge to one of the tiers on the right and get your rewards for your contribution. So since you mentioned the tiers, let's look at those real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I love the titles you gave the tiers, especially the last one was Tchaikovsky's something.
Revenge.
Yeah, Tchaikovsky's Revenge.
No reading ahead, Ayrton. Come on.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was a really. I had that idea. I was like, oh, I have to do this. This has to be. I had really fun making these names because I that's actually one of my favorite parts of campaigns is the names of the rewards. I think they can be so creative, So.
Right.
Now we got to get you paid to do this for everybody's campaign. That's what we need. We gotta get we just gotta get you a PayPal set up so somebody can slip you a 20 and just be like, so what do I name these tiers? But we start off.
Yeah, people have a hard time. They're like deluxe version, king size version. It's like come on,
super deluxe version.
Yeah, it's like what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So we've got the stocking stuffer, which is your name and the thank you page, and a digital PDF of Bric-a-Brac #1 in December of 2019. So right on time for the thematic holiday, and that's the $5 tier, and I'm guessing no shipping.
No shipping.
You're gonna need to hit me with $15 to ship you this PDF, bro. I'll put it on a flash drive. That'd be great. But
that's what I would do.
You got the Nutcracker Suite, which is your name in the thank you page, a digital copy of Bric-a-Brac, and a digital copy of Unspeakable Text Volume 1.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's how.
So that's my kind of my catalog.
Oh, Unspeakable Text.
Yes.
Catalog. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's.
So it's kind of like my whole catalog. So for anyone who's interested in like getting more of my books. Yeah, it's just kind of something it worked a little on Kickstarter, so I thought, why not bring it over the pond? Yeah.
Definitely. Always expand your audience every chance you get, man. Grow that audience.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
We get down to Reindeer Games, which is your name in the thank you page, a digital and a physical copy of Bric-a-Brac, and that's only $12. So you get a physical comic book, a digital comic book, and your name in the thank you page. So I mean, you can make a gift of this for $12 if you know a comic fan.
Right.
Then you've got the Holiday Cheermaster, where you'll get the bookmark, and what's the second piece there?
Art print.
Okay, so you get the art print and a book.
A Father Christmas. A Father Christmas.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
And then you've got the Lost Christmas Eve, which is everything mentioned above, the holiday card, and an ornament.
Yes.
And then you get Underneath the Tree, which is one of the first quote-unquote deluxe tiers. So you get all previous rewards, as well as PDFs of 5 other comics, 6 other projects. So you get Impossible Jones, Beastland, Ichabod Jones, Last Ember, Sneaky Goblins, and A Small Favor. So $40 gets you enough stuff to keep you busy all Christmas Day while you're avoiding the cranberry sauce. And then
exactly.
Ayrton's favorite here. How did you pronounce it again? Tchaikovsky.
Tchaikovsky.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Again, I'm Southern. I don't do that.
The T is silent. The T is silent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tchaikovsky.
Yeah,
okay.
And this one is awesome right here.
And who is Tchaikovsky for the ignorant in the room, being me?
He is Yeah, you can explain.
Oh, he's a composer. He's the one who composed the Nutcracker.
Gotcha.
Russian composer.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm uncultured swine, so that's why I keep Ayrton around. I'll probably fire him by the end of the night. But this includes all previous rewards and a sketch from Raphael Sam. And what is BAB?
Yep. Bric-a-Brac. Yeah.
Okay, a Bric-a-Brac sketch. All right. So, I mean, it looks like you've got a pretty solid tier system set up here. So, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see any problems with any of that. Like everything is pure value. Um, Imbrek dropped in the chat to say hey and drop a like on the video. He'll probably catch the replay at a later date. Uh, anyway, the story. Bric-a-Brac is unlike any Christmas story you've ever read. Tchaikovsky composed a song with cannon fire in it. Go check out Overture 1812. I will definitely have to do that. That sounds fantastic.
He did. That is a good one.
But it's unlike any Christmas story you've ever read. So right there, you're already subverting or not subverting. You're already building anticipation because there are a lot of Christmas stories out there. You're telling me that there is no leg lamp in this story?
There's no leg lamp in this story. No,
all right,
that is a
I'm
very
out,
unique
guys.
Christmas
Show's
story,
over.
though, I have to say.
Show's over. I'm out. It's over. I'm done. No, the story follows a young boy named Garrett who lives in the beautiful, isolated Sugar Plum Cove, an island on planet Christmas. And there, he and his friends are protected by magical sugar plum fairies. And we're getting an example of that in this page here. Again, who's doing your colors for this? Is your artist doing your color as well?
Yes, he did everything. He's a monster.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
that's fantastic. I mean, the
artwork. He's a beast.
The artwork is absolutely stunning in its simplicity. Like it's simplistic without being undetailed. So there's a minutia of detail here that you get in that heavy line art and sketching, but it also looks like something that wouldn't necessarily make a kid go, "Oh God, this is too busy. I'm not going to read this." So now, is this going to be an all ages book? Is another question.
It is an all ages book. Yes,
okay,
it is.
Excellent.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Excellent. So
it's a crazy if it was. No, it's definitely all ages. Although it does have
like a mature.
Like it does have very. I mean, it has a. I mean, it's kind of like how Pixar movies are. They have themes that are mature, and it has themes that are mature. So it talks about a lot of different things, but it is very much about. It's like the Christmas story I would have loved to have seen as a kid because I had a lot of conflicting ideas about. Oh, people are telling me Santa Claus isn't real, and a lot of conflicting ideas of what how you should celebrate Christmas and stuff. So it's definitely, like I said, it's a story that I would have loved to have been able to read or watch as a kid. It's just something that I feel speaks to everything I've ever wanted to say about Christmas.
Well, the reason I ask is just because it's Christmas themed doesn't make it all ages. We read an Aftershock, I believe it was Aftershock, right? The Rudolph book.
Yeah, that was Aftershock.
Yeah,
The Gift? No, that's not it.
No, it was a Rudolph book that definitely it had some themes and some blatant references to things that would not be considered all ages. It was more akin to the Neonomicon than this book.
Oh my God, Neonomicon! That is a weird book.
Oh, we reviewed it. We reviewed it last week.
Nah, I would rather not.
Yeah, we reviewed it last week.
I would rather not.
Ayrton didn't know what he was asking for. He suggested it when we're covering Alan Moore as the overall theme of this month.
Oh.
And he said if we could find some copies of Neonomicon, we should review that. And I said, be careful.
Don't want to mess with that.
I didn't really know what it was about. I just saw it on the Wikipedia list, and
let's save that for the Discord novel, bro.
The Necronomicon. It's going to be like some Satanist, like creepy, like kind of weird horror, supernatural shit, and it was way worse than.
Oh my God, it's weird as. It's so weird. Anyway, yeah.
But anyway, the story followed a young boy named Garrett, and that is until the Nutcracker army invades their cozy little island in order to steal the Christmas spirit from under it and gain an advantage in the war. So you've got the coming ships, and the Nutcracker army being led by the head Nutcracker here. The fairies try to stop them, and they are immediately turned away with some kind of snow gun. It appears to be.
No, it's the thing that it's like kind of like the Ghostbuster.
Okay.
What do you call
The
it?
proton packs?
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of
Okay,
like that.
so they're capturing
Okay.
fairies.
That's one of the weapons. That's one of the weapons that, because the Nutcrackers themselves are very primitive. They only have, like themselves, they don't have technology. They have wood. That's why their ships are wood. But because the space pirates have given them new technology, like those guns, they're able to, kind of use them against the fairies and collect them, and
Again, so far I've enjoyed every word that's come out of your mouth in regards to this story.
Yeah, yeah, and their interactions with space pirates, it's just as interesting as you'd think it would be. Like just Nutcrackers and then aliens. Like, what does that look like? Yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
So wait a minute. I'm going to read this next blurb here, but I'm immediately taken aback by the fact that there is a dragon with a scarf on, just kind of lazily strolling through the air. Please tell me this dragon's important to the story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fantastical characters like that in the Christmas militia, which is the rebellion, against the Nutcrackers and Good King Wenceslas and all these other factions is composed of a lot of fantastical creatures. A Christmas lobster, a Christmas lion, a lot of different stuff like that. Yep.
Okay,
right.
I'm totally down with the Christmas lobster.
Yeah.
Now, do they have a flag that says "Don't tread on me" and it's a candy cane instead of a snake?
I'm not sure. They're not. I haven't quite developed that yet, but I'll think about it.
No break the cane. No break the cane. Garrett and his friends devise a list of wishes to give to Father Christmas so that he might stop the Nutcrackers from harming their caretakers and put an end to the war. In a turn of events, Garrett is separated from his old pals and hurled into an adventure that will challenge his belief and trust in ways he never expected, while also showing him fantastical locations and introducing him to new allies and dangers. And there again, we have the dragon, the giant snow spider, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I love the penguins ice skating in the water fountain.
Yes.
Elf and gingerbread people just walking around.
Everything about this is great. And
it is.
Going back to the art again, like it feels like those. Was it like? What was it? Was it ABC Family or TBS or whatever back in like the mid to late '90s? Always had like those Christmas specials.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
What I'm talking about? That's what this art feels.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to go for. Like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Year Without a Santa Claus, all those classic, things that you always think about when you think back to Christmas. Like what is it? And it is a lot of those movies, and obviously The Nightmare Before Christmas was very inspired by those movies, and this is also very inspired by those movies too. And those, that it's definitely an ode to that kind of style, that puppet style. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So it's very much in that. We use those kind of things as references. Like, for example, for this Christmasville, if you look back at Nightmare Before Christmas, when Jack obviously enters the Christmas world. That Raphael used that as a reference pretty much to how I wanted him to kind of make Christmasville look like. And so, so he definitely, you can kind of see with the houses and the exaggerated shapes of the houses, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like the over-expressive like eyes on our protagonist and stuff like that, and just like it feels like a busy like downtown, people walking around, but the art isn't crowded. Like you can plainly see all these different creatures, if you will.
Yeah, they're creatures. They're definitely creatures.
Yeah, and it feels like busy, but in like a natural sort of way,
Right.
if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense because like you can see there's motion. I love how there's people in mid walk. That's one of the things I think that gives it
Yeah.
motion, you know. And also the dancing. Like the dancing penguins, like you can see they move and they're like in a different, like obviously the first panel they're in one pose and then in the next they're like in another one. So it's just very, it does have like a flow. I know what you're talking, you know, like it has a,
Yeah.
every character is literally moving. Like the dragon is moving, the elf with its little foot is about to move. There's the gingerbread walk, you know. So yeah, you're right.
I am curious though how the gingerbread woman is actually walking without legs.
They call that
Yeah, she kind
gliding.
of just has like a, she hobbles.
Yeah, she
Like
just kind of
hops.
glides across the snow. And just wills herself forward.
Like
That's how
the
that
non,
happens.
like the nun in Blues Brothers just glides back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly that.
So
Yeah, for sure.
and here we have probably my favorite part of this campaign, and I think this is something we try to pick out things that we like and dislike about certain campaigns over the course of this journey, so that maybe people that pick this up and listen to it and are planning their own campaigns, if they value our opinions, which God help you if you value our opinion. But if you see these things, and there are certain things that I really do like, and as a consumer, I feel like that's information that's worth passing on. Um, the character designs, not necessarily. You don't have to do the full page screenshot where you get the full, because immediately these are from your artist, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so immediately I've got to take 2 points away from Boomendor because I see the Windows the Internet Explorer icon there, and I do see the author has Chrome, but just the fact that you might accidentally click on Internet Explorer, that's 2 points off. But seriously, the character designs,
Yeah, I don't.
these things, these are eye grabbing, and
Yeah,
immediately.
I was thinking about including them, and I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I included them
Well, because
in the campaign because I was.
it's one thing to have a couple of complete pages on your story, but it's another entirely to get part of that insider look of how this story came to flesh out. Maybe you see some subtle differences between the characters. You can't remove them from the task. But what? I don't believe you. I got rid of mine. Um. Anyway, sorry. I talked to my chat. But one thing that I can see that kind of, I'm not sure if it comes back up later, but I don't always see the green stripes on. Well, yeah, they are there. You don't always see them. Maybe they come up at a certain point, but you see the kind of the evolution of the characters from the time that they were conceived to the time that they make it to the page. Like I see that from the Nutcracker guy specifically, you don't see the candy canes and stuff in his hair here, but on the main image at the top,
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
main image at the top, you can see where that's kind of worked its way into his design. But immediately when I saw this, just scrolling through, obviously your first character is Garrett, your protagonist of the story. Um, Second is oh, we'll talk about it after the show, Matt Christie. I'll jump in tech and we'll talk about removing Internet Explorer because everyone should do that. Um, Now, who is your secondary character here?
Her name is Marie, and she's a kind of a commander in the militia that of the rebellion.
Okay.
That's against that's headquarters is in Christmasville. So she's
Okay.
gonna help Garrett get his list of wishes to Santa Claus so that the war can stop, essentially. So that's kind of like Garrett's goal is to get his list to Santa, which Father Christmas.
Okay. And then you've got the head Nutcracker here, and then again you see some of the just some of the evolution of the character because his beard obviously goes from colored to white in the final draft. But you've even got the sketches of how his facial expressions will look through all that facial hair. You've got some practice work on how his hands will move and function. You've got him with a cape and without. It's just I love this stuff. This is the kind of stuff that I live for. Like when you buy a trade and it's got stuff like this in the back, this is the kind of stuff that I eat up, and I will spend hours poring over the little details of these drawings, just to just to kind of absorb it all and understand the concept behind how they were created, how they were drawn, and just take it all in. And that's something that you don't get in a lot of campaigns. Like we were talking briefly before the show. You were recently on Doug Tenape, and
Yeah, I was on there. Yep.
and one thing that he does is with a lot of his books, he releases a making of book. And while I think that's a fantastic concept, I I never spring for those because if I want to I want to see that kind of stuff in the back of the trade. I want to see that kind of stuff on the campaign as it goes forward. If you just give me a
Right.
book of it, I'm never just going to sit there and read through all of that. I want the story when I get it in my hands.
Yeah.
Finally. So
Yeah,
and
you're
that's
right. You're
not a-
right. You're right.
that's not a slight at Doug Tenaple or anything. A
Well-
lot of people love that stuff collected in that way, but me, I'm just kind of set in my ways.
Well, it's like in when we went through Lock and Key all those months ago. Like at the end of the books, they would have like little like how they scripted out the stories and like them on location in Massachusetts or whatever, like getting ideas for like stuff to use like in the locations of their book and stuff, and that was super interesting.
Yeah.
In this sort of similar vein.
But and I get releasing those kind of making of books with your with your project book. I would probably be more inclined to look through it if it came like that. But I like seeing that stuff at the end of the story. Like that's what I like to see. When the story's over, I don't need to put the book down just yet. You know what I mean? It keeps you involved. It keeps the book in your hand longer. It gives you a reason to go back and look at it again. It gives you a reason to go back and read through the story again to see where those influences actually took root and actually impacted the story, as opposed to
Right.
just because nobody, and I'm speaking for myself and my general experience, but I generally think that nobody's going to go out and buy a making of, what is it? My favorite, one of my favorite big Marvel events of recent years. I talk about it damn near every other show. Secret Wars 2015 by Jonathan Hickman.
Here we go.
I would probably.
Oh, seriously? Okay.
Yeah, I would probably go through and buy that making of book, but that's the exception that makes the rule. But if you go, say, The Long Halloween, the making of The Long Halloween, I'm not going to buy a making of The Long Halloween.
Right.
I would rather just read the story. I'm not going to invest in something like that. So getting these little bonuses at the beginning of the campaign, like, it draws you in. And even if you don't see these characters, like this, first off, you got a man in a chicken suit here. I can't skip over that in good faith. Or the ghost. We didn't really talk about the ghost.
That's the ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, the chicken guy?
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic. I don't even want to know why. I want to read why, but I don't want you to tell me anything about this guy except he is the ghost of Christmas Present. That's fantastic. I love every bit of that. And then I'm guessing this is the Ghost of Christmas Past. Is that the linear progression here?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So Rapunzel is the
It's very 80s.
yeah. It's an 80s Rapunzel is what this is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Leg warmers and everything. Go-go skirt. That's fantastic. I have no idea why these are the ghost of those things, but I'm sure it will be well explained in the story. And then you get to the big daddy, Father Christmas.
Yes.
Now, please tell me, so the little header above the Tchaikovsky's Revenge has him wearing brass knuckles that say Merry Christmas. Does that show up in the story? Please tell me that shows up in the story.
Ironically, that's just a variant. So,
Okay.
unfortunate, but you know what? Maybe we might, because Raphael came up with that idea he for last Christmas he made a little postcard, and it had nothing really to do with our story, but he just wanted to make one, and so I was like, wow, I'd really like to get that like as a variant print or something, like a warrior Santa Claus. And so yeah, we're gonna do that.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna add that tier soon, like a variant cover. I think that would be cool. But but he does. I mean, Santa Claus eventually is going to throw down. I mean, come on, he has
Oh,
to.
yeah.
He has to fight eventually because he's in
He's gonna have to
exile.
go upside somebody's head.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in the first issue, you see him kind of go. I mean, not fight, but he has to escape because the Nutcrackers have the Nutcrackers that are under the control of the general. They kind of find the North Pole, and unfortunately, Father Christmas has to leave because they overpower him and all the elves, and with their new weapons and technology. And so you kind of get to see him not normally like how we see Santa Claus at all, do things that are totally not Santa Claus, in your mind. You think that's totally not something he would do. But, and when wartime comes, it's different, right? And so he also feels partially responsible he feels kind of responsible for the war because he is supposed to be a peacekeeper of Christmas. He's supposed to be someone who embodies the Christmas spirit. And why is this war going on? He feels like really upset about that. So he actually exiles himself, and Garrett has to find him. Right. So that's the kind of the main part of the story is Garrett really trying to find where Father Christmas went. And yeah.
Well, you've done, excuse me, you've done really well. And I don't know, I'm guessing this was a lot of collaboration between you and the artist to get these character designs, but you've done really well as a team to keeping the general concept of Santa Claus. Like, you put a red hat on this guy and it's unmistakable for Santa Claus, while still adding more of a druidic, nomadic element to him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. I like the kind of like the Father Christmas idea. I've always liked a little bit more than the Santa Claus idea, like the white and red. I like the green and the red and the gold and the holly on the hat and the bell and the and the big belt and the kind of, you're right, Nordic kind of
Well, I don't know if this was on purpose, but you have that big pouch on his belt, which we're a fan of pouches.
Yes.
But
That's a Liefeld homage.
I believe it's from Siberia, actually, part of the Santa Claus mythos.
Right, yeah.
The shaman would have to climb out of their chimneys and to go hunt for the Amanita muscaria mushroom. And they would wear these big red and fur coats to stay warm because Siberia is like negative 85,000 degrees. And they would go hunt these mushrooms and stuff. And that's part of the Santa Claus mythos. Is that kind of a little bit of that, the pouch?
I didn't think of that, but
Okay.
I can't say I thought of that, but it is kind of like an outdoorsy, he doesn't, it's not like the North Pole isn't like it's not a fortress. It's made of wood. It's a very practical he works with his hands. He's not the Santa Claus that is commercial. It's a very a different kind of Santa Claus that is more I don't know, not as not like he's described in the poem Night Before Christmas, but more like just like the spirit of Christmas.
He's
I
more
don't know how
Saint
to
Nick
explain
than
it.
Santa Claus.
He'll choke a bitch if he has to.
No, he's very reserved. He's very reserved in his actions. So that's why he, like, instead of fighting, which he totally is capable of doing, and you'll kind of figure out this later, that the militia is interested in enlisting Santa Claus in their rebellion because, I mean, he's magical, right? Like, how couldn't you defeat the Nutcrackers? But he doesn't have it in him to fight, so he that's why he goes in exile because he has to have some crap to figure out, because he is kind of partially responsible for not keeping everyone in Planet Christmas in check. I mean, that's his job. He's Santa Claus. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that goes and how Garrett's going to get Santa kind of out of a depression. I mean, a little bit. So it'll be interesting.
That's, it's almost kind of like if anybody's seen, I have 3 small chapels as Big Daddy Church here. I have 3 small children that I refer to as my chapels. I have seen Megamind probably 900 times, and it kind of feels like
It's a great movie.
It kind of feels a little bit like that kind of styling where the great hero, the one that you want to be the leader and the protagonist, goes away, and the entire story is based around finding him. But instead of him just being
exactly
voluntarily just hiding out and being him, he's exiled and actually feels bad about it. So it's a little twist on that I guess punished hero trope.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have some very menacing looking, I'm guessing tree folk almost.
That is Jack Frost there.
Okay, so that's an icicle creature.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, that's Jack Frost right there.
That is a cool Jack Frost design.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
He is
Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah. He is also kind of in hiding, and he's like I said, he has a battle with the Nutcrackers because they want him on their side, and he's super powerful. Obviously, he controls the weather, but he doesn't want to help because he knows the Nutcrackers are bad news, and he's had an alliance with them before, and it didn't go so well. So he's kind of in a similar position as Santa because they both are so powerful. They don't know what to do with their power yet. They don't know how to, if they should, what faction they should help out,
Right. Or should they just remain neutral in their own entities?
Yeah, exactly. Because they are, such mythic figures that we all know, of course we all know who they are. But yeah, it's just that they have a conflict there that, we'll kind of figure out, what decisions they make. Good, bad. Santa's not going to make a bad decision, but, Jack Frost has the possibility of making a bad decision.
Oh, wow.
All right.
I'm reading a little further here. Raphael Sam, your artist, a 9-year artist and comics and illustrator, has worked in textbooks, comic books, and cartoon-style concept art, made scenarios for animation, and some time ago he worked for DreamWorks. So that's a hell of a pedigree to have on your team.
Yes, yeah, he worked on the Madagascar comic book because he lives in
Sao Paulo.
Recife,
Recife and Sao Paulo.
Right. So basically, I guess they have a booming comic culture there. I mean, so he is he's so good at what he does, and he got to work on a Madagascar title there. I mean, I don't think it ever saw print in the United States, but seeing pictures, it's awesome. And not only does we have this project, but Raphael himself has 2 other crowdfunding projects he's got out, not on American crowdfunding services, but Catarse, or it's called something like that, and it's in Mexico and Brazil and South America. Mm-hmm. It's basically the Kickstarter of the South America, and he has 2 books on there that just absolutely need, and he's gotten them successfully funded and stuff like that, but they need an English translation because, oh my God, I mean, they look amazing. He has one that's like Black Desert. It's called Black Desert, and it's he uses these really beautiful colors, really bright oranges and reds. And obviously it's in a desert, so it just, you get to see his style in a brand new light. Whereas I would say, you see a lot of blues and reds and pinks kind of in the colors in my book. But in that book, it's like really light blue, really, kind of red and orange and maybe a little yellow. So it just, he uses really colors in a very beautiful way, and he has such skill making using digital computer as a means of making his work. He's just such a great artist. I honestly cannot believe that we get to work on something like this together. But he has a lot of clout for sure. And he's actually funding his second book for Black Desert right now, but it's not in English. It needs to be. It needs to be. I mean, you guys would absolutely love it because it actually has zombies in it, and I mean, his
nice.
work is ridiculous. And oh my gosh, I want to show what he has to the world. Like, he has so much to give,
Well, if this is even a modicum of an example of his prowess, then I'm definitely interested. And it says here you've got lettering by the amazing Tobin. Please help me out here. I don't want to butcher this man's name.
Brack, I'm not sure how to say his last name either, but we've worked together a lot.
Okay.
And I probably
Alright.
should know how to say his last name, but I don't. And yeah, we work together on The Unspeakable Text. Every single story we work together on, and every single story has different lettering to fit the story. And I just found that he put so much effort and time into really detailing each story's tone with the lettering that I'm like, this guy is the real deal. And we've been working together ever since. So
Nice.
Again, so far, like, I've got to say, I'm very impressed with the campaign setup on this. A lot of a lot of creators have a hard time, like, fully crediting everyone to the extent that you have. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm definitely not going to call anybody out on it because this is a learning curve and a learning process for everyone. But just the way that you've laid out the full crediting for yourself as the writer, your artist and colorer, and your letterer. I mean, it's really nice to see that. That's something that I think anybody going forward should definitely take note of, and definitely always, always, always credit your creators. And I'm about to actually give you more praise because, again, just reading a little bit ahead here, on the logistics section here, you've got a full rundown of how you plan to create this book, who you're going to print it with, that you've worked with them before. You've detailed your shipping, your the way you're going to be shipping these
yeah.
books to prevent damage. You've laid out your that Indiegogo has a 5% fee, which I don't think that a lot of people understand. Most people think that when you donate to, or when you back a campaign on Indiegogo, that every red cent of that's going to the creator. It's not. Indiegogo takes their pound of
It's
flesh as
not,
well.
no.
Um, and
Yeah.
you've laid
I
out
mean,
that
as they should.
absolutely, but a lot of people don't take that into consideration because it's one of those background things that only
Right.
the creator has to deal with. And I feel like it's important to point out that that's another reason that these prices on some of these books and whatnot may be a little higher than what you're expecting for what you're getting. It's easy for Marvel Comics and DC Comics, who own their own platform, to be able to say, oh, we're just going to put our digital books out for a subscription fee. And then you come over here and you're like, oh, it's going to cost me $12 to get a comic book, just one comic book? That's outrageous. Well, first off, you're getting a limited edition run of something. You're in on the ground floor of the
Mhm.
first edition of a project that very well could be, and this goes for every project, but any project you back very well could be the next Batman. Now, I'm not saying that that's likely for anyone, but you're paying for the ability to be in on the ground floor of that because anybody can go to whatever publisher will take them and just say, okay, well, here's my intellectual property. Here's the artwork that I've painstakingly created or had created at my own expense. Here's the lettering that I paid for and all that good stuff. Now, cut me a 10% check of what you make off of these issues after Diamond gets their cut, after you get your cut, after you pay the printers, after you do
Uh-huh.
your advertising. And that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration, but you also break down that you've got 25% of the comic done in the drawing phase, which I assume you mean inking, or are you just talking about pencils?
I mean, complete pages.
Oh, complete
pages.
colored
Yeah.
pages and everything. Wow. So
Yep.
then you're
nice.
actively producing pages while we go on with this campaign. With your help, we will be able to complete the rest. Here's a pie chart breakdown of what we're going to be using the money for. So you've got 100% transparency of.
Which is amazing. First of all, I love charts. Just I don't care what they're about.
I knew I hated you
about
for
how
a
many
reason.
Toppings are dispersed on a pizza.
You know what? I knew that even though you're probably the best co-host that I could ever ask for, that I hated you for a reason, and that the fact that you love charts. I also enjoy charts.
Okay. So my boss sent me to like a 2-day like Excel course, and like I learned how to make all these charts and do all these graphs and fancy shit. And I like visible representation of data. It's interesting to me. See, I try and come across as like a normal person, and like, like I'm quote unquote cool, ride a motorcycle, play guitar, but I'm very strange.
Yeah. He's a very eclectic person. He works in a tobacco shop. He rides a motorcycle. He plays the blues guitar, and he calls in from a rotary phone or a tin can, depending on his whims. But you lay out your shipping cost up front. That it's a $5 U.S. shipping, and that there's going to vary on international shipping. And you explain that that's because you don't want to disappoint backers, and make sure that. If you order the book from Belize or whatever, you're going to get it. It's just going to cost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've had some people. Portugal was really hard last time. I mean, I'm not even kidding. It was like $50. So,
right. Yeah, no.
You just have to be. Yeah, you just never know, man. Like you get these slips, like you have to fill out these slips for countries you've never even seen an address for before. And oh my God, it's like the weirdest thing. But South Korea, I had one from South Korea. I had one from France, which was kind of hard. And then, like Portugal was so hard. Like I didn't even know where the address started and ended. Like it's like a blurb of letters and numbers. It literally makes no sense. So yeah, it's a struggle.
You know what, Matt Christie? Spreadsheets are fun.
Yeah, I've got the Goose Game. We're going to be streaming that later on, like not tonight, but later in the coming weeks. We're going to be streaming the Goose Game on Gospel After Hours, folks. But anyway,
should I be scared?
You lay out the point that you can't promise physical copies will be out before Christmas, as Christmas shipping is expensive and unpredictable. You can confidently say digital copies will be given to backers in December and physical copies will come in January, which is fair. And the physical copy being delivered before Christmas is a deal breaker for you. We want you to know the story about the idea of Christmas, not the holiday. It's implementing Christmas cheer into each of our lives every day for a better tomorrow. And that's just a nice, touching finish.
And to be fair to you, everyone leaves their trees and decorations up at least until February, like 23rd. So
True.
So you can still have the nice scenery of sitting by the tree, reading the story.
Yeah, and I want to get it out as soon as I can because I want people to have that experience. I mean, they deserve it. It's what I would want that. So.
Yeah, I mean, my family, our tradition is take the tree out in March, let it dry out, and then the end of the summer we throw it in the fire pit and have a big bonfire. So
that's awesome. Yeah, my parents just literally throw it off the deck and then burn it. That's literally how it goes.
I have a tree with.
Well, you
got
to let it dry out so it lights up real quick, and you get that 8-foot flame. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
we did let it
dry out.
You need that good 3-month drying period before you light it.
Plastic Tree Master Race all the way. I can use the same one again next year. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not going to a CD car lot to buy a tree from a guy who's going to charge me $50 today when he would have charged me $25 yesterday. Nope. Nope. Maybe when my kids are older.
$50.
Yeah.
Where are you going that somebody's charging you $50 for a goddamn Christmas tree?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Last one I
literally,
got was like $20.
No, if you want
a
a
real
good
tree.
Yeah, if you want a good
Yeah.
real tree down here, like a big one, you're gonna pay $50-$60, and you're gonna have to transport it
Yeah, for
yourself.
real.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like $6-7. You know, it has to
No.
fit on top of my tiniest car. I can't get anything too crazy.
No, you've gotta understand, Ayrton. See, everything about where you live is already crappy, so they at least try and make up for it at Christmas. Down here, things are pretty good.
True.
So,
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll give you that one.
But anyway, no, that's Bric-a-Brac in a nutshell. That's the entire campaign, and honestly, I like a lot of what I see. I really don't have any major, criticisms of the way this campaign's set up. Obviously, as a Comic Skate guy, if it would have fully been funded on Indiegogo, that would have made me happier. But Indiegogo kicked Mike S. Miller off for his abuse of MS-13 guys on one of his Lone Star books. And I'm like, yes, we can't have a superhero beating up gang members anymore. That's terrible.
Oh yeah, that was bad. I don't know why they did that to him. That wasn't fair.
And what are you gonna do? That's the thing that Kickstarter has.
So
Kind of. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so if this becomes successful, and so does issue 2. Issue 3 should be Father Christmas bringing the two factions together to defeat MS-13 to have a peaceful Christmas.
Right, on Kickstarter.
Exactly. Yeah, on Kickstarter, yeah. Like, just
Yeah.
hide it and then put it in there. Like, say it's a Christmas comic and then it's totally not.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right, absolutely. The bait and switch. That's it's a classic move.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
I really like this. This is the art, absolutely phenomenal. Just like I said, when you messaged me, you messaged me on Twitter, and you were talking about the interview we did with Gilbert Deltrez, and I immediately looked at this page, and just from the beginning image of the Nutcracker guy, I'm like, I gotta have you on too.
Yeah.
And from that point on, and then everything we've just gone through, this is a gorgeous product. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Like I'm a completionist, so I'm not gonna read it until it's done. Like, all of it. So I'm probably a good 3 years out from being able to enjoy the story, but I will wait those 3 years with bated breath.
For sure.
But no,
yeah.
I definitely encourage anybody in the chat, anybody watching the replay, to go to the link that I am about to put in the description, because I am a terrible host. I'm sorry, we've been dealing with so many
anybody
tech
in the
issues.
chat.
Go ahead.
Anybody in the chat, if you have any questions for our guest, go ahead.
Yeah.
And put them in there.
Right, absolutely.
We'll throw them over at him.
Right. And and I'll tell you, like I tell everyone else, if anything comes up, and we've got some questions as well, but if anything comes up that you don't want to answer, by all means, just skip it. But
Okay.
yeah, we're not gonna.
Yeah, just say pass.
Yeah, no. But
Yeah, our chat can be a bit degenerate sometimes, but they're
sometimes.
great.
They're the best. But would you say that you had? But obviously, you've talked about this previously. This is kind of a canned list of questions that I like to ask to people that I interview. And you kind of covered this earlier, where you said the early ABC, animations and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other storyline influences for this? Because while you're using Christmas trappings, like you said, this is not a Christmas story. This is not a story about the holiday of Christmas, but more the idea of Christmas.
Yeah. Let me think. Well, I think I was inspired like by Star Wars. I think for the intergalactic idea of it, or maybe kind of more of the cosmic stories in like DC, for example. Like
Okay.
I like the idea of how I
Like
like DC a lot because they have so many cosmic stories and there's just a whole mythology like new gods, for example. I just
I
think
was
that's
gonna
such a
say
cool concept. So
the new gods and the
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and you mentioned New 52. I really enjoyed the Green Lantern Corps
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
in the new
yeah.
New 52.
Oh, not yeah, yeah, yeah. The one I think Jeff Johns wrote that. Did he? No,
I don't remember. That was so
I don't
long ago.
remember. But you're right. It was a long
Had
time ago.
had a lot of Guy Gardner in it, who was
That's
probably
Jeff,
right.
my
And that
favorite
was
Lantern.
at the time when he became a Red Lantern, right?
Yeah.
Or no, was Supergirl became a Red? I don't know, something like
no,
that.
no, and
No, he,
I'll clear this up as the ranking Green Lantern guy. Yes, Jeff Johns was involved in the New 52 Green Lantern. Yes, Kyle Rayner died, and Guy Gardner held a green and a red ring simultaneously, and proceeded to be the baddest MFer on the face of the planet.
And then
But
Supergirl became a Red Lantern
oh yeah, a lot of
for no reason.
the light spectrum, all of that stuff happened. But Novel Bro in the chat, any ideas for future projects that haven't been revealed yet? Anything cooking up in the works that you might want to spoil exclusively here on the Gospel of
Um,
Comics?
well, speaking of a completionist kind of story, next year I have a graphic novel that I want to bring to Indiegogo. That's it's kind of like Noah's Ark, but it's different. It's very different. It's got more of it's a little bit more complicated than Noah's Ark, but it is essentially like the same idea of gathering animals for a kind of purpose that's not for God, but it's for you just have to figure out and see when it comes out. But it's going to be a really awesome story written by me, of course, and then drawn by a guy who I worked with on the Unspeakable Text. We worked on a story called Clouds Over Britain together, and we're going to be making this epic graphic novel that I want to be 120 pages. But seeing Gilbert, kind of struggle with Grom and making it get its goal because it's such a huge book. I don't know. I might split into two parts, So
Right.
we'll have to play it by ear,
Right. Well, I mean,
all right.
it really depends, and that's a different conversation I think for a different day. But I think it really depends on what your overall like goals and cost and everything are. Like, definitely make sure you have all that wrapped up before you set a goal that may be too high or unachievable based on the amount. Um, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
Now, what about we talked about kind of like your comic and like Christmas influences to this story particularly. What about like overall, like literary wise or
Grant
anything like that?
Morrison is like a huge, I love everything Grant Morrison, anything, I think he's like a genius. And I just like, I've always gravitated towards his work, whether it be like almost throughout my entire comic reading. It's almost like there's always been a Grant Morrison book in my life, whether it be Batman R.I.P., which I still think is the most epic Batman book ever, or Batman and Robin, his entire run, which is so fun, or Batman Incorporated, or Klaus, which I just read, which is about Santa Claus, ironically, and has art by Dan Mora, which is a dope book. Not what I expected, but still really dope. And then, obviously the Invisibles or We Three. I mean, there's always been a
We
Grant
Three
Morrison
was
book in one.
We Three was absolutely fantastic. That's one of the books
Yeah,
that
there's
we've
always
got.
been a Grant Morrison book in my life. Like he is just a huge, huge inspiration because he doesn't care what anyone thinks. He doesn't,
There,
a lot of comic book creators are worried about what people might think about their work, or Grant Morrison doesn't even consider them, and so that's why he's a badass. That's
no,
why he's just the dopest, writer alive right now,
well, there's a
Well,
couple of
and that kind of brings me to my oh,
there's a couple of
I was
titles you
going to say
left
that
off that
kind of
list.
brings me
Oh my God! Say it. Get it out.
That brings me to another question. So, like, as a musician, like songwriter sort of thing, the process of writing like lyrics it's more like a, in the moment you just kind of like something just kind of hits you and you just kind of sit down and start jotting it out and then work out a melody and a rhythm and all that stuff.
Mhm.
What, like, I'm always interested in kind of like the story, like author telling writing process, because it seems to be much different from that and kind of different from everybody we've talked to. It's like, what's kind of your process and how you write these stories?
Well, I always write stories with the most exciting scene first because I want to get myself excited about the story. So why not write the thing that, I don't know how it connects to other things. I don't know if it has any consequence in the real story, but it sounds awesome. So that's usually where I start. You know what I mean? It's like a scene that I just want to get right into it. I don't start at the beginning or the end. I want to just start where the action is or where I think there's something, and then you kind of work with the pieces from there. And,
Okay.
Well,
And just kind of like a puzzle almost.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
So one thing when you were talking about Grant Morrison, I've got to say, and this just comes from my being a very, how do you say it, a very ineffectual encyclopedia of American comics. Um, I I've I've read so much in my life that I've probably forgotten more comic stories than your average American will ever read these days. But a few things that you didn't mention when you brought up Grant Morrison, and I'm wondering is that because you didn't like them or you haven't read them. Animal Man, the
I
Skrull,
have read Animal Man. Yep, I love it.
the Skrull Kill Crew. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't
that's
even
from
know
Doom
that.
Patrol, right? Or
Oh yeah, he was in Doom Patrol
wait.
as well. But Skrull Kill Crew was a Marvel book.
No, I don't think I've read that. See, that's another thing about Grant Morrison is like there's so much. He has such an extensive catalog that
If you wanna,
it's hard to track it all down. Like his Marvel Boy, for example, like I've been trying to find a trade of that for so long, but
oh
haven't been
yeah.
able to get it,
And last but not least, in fact, first on my list for Grant Morrison stuff. Well, actually, two more. We'll start with the Multiversity. That was fantastic.
Oh, I love that too. I love the Shazam story in that. That was epic. Cameron
And
Stewart art,
and
amazing.
and the best Grant Morrison that I think I've ever read would have to be Hellblazer.
I haven't read that.
Oh
I
yeah,
gotta
John.
check that out.
Yeah, his run on John Constantine was almost peerless. Um, but
Yeah, I need
that's just
to
me.
check because he's so good with the demonic kind of supernatural. He's just so good with that.
Right. Well, he did some pretty amazing things. You know, Neil Gaiman, Garth Ennis, Grant Morrison, and several other writers have written Hellblazer, but if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the. Let's see, I'm not sure when. Oh no, Alan Moore. Alan Moore introduced Constantine. I thought it might be Grant Morrison, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not convinced. I'm really not convinced that Garth Ennis, Alan Moore, and Neil Gaiman and Grant Morrison aren't all the same person that just changed their name for tax purposes. I'm not convinced that that's not the case.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Alan Moore could just shapeshift into different people.
he is a
At this
wizard.
Possibly.
He is a
Yeah.
wizard.
He's
according
given up
to-
on comics for like how many times now? 10 times. So
Oh yeah,
he'll be back.
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he always is.
Yeah, well, I mean,
He's always like he's come out with a public statement. I'm done, and then oh wait, you have a Jerusalem came out. Like what?
I'm reminded of The Sopranos.
So
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And I know that's
Exactly
a Godfather
like that.
quote, but it was better from Silvio in The Sopranos. I'm sorry.
But you know, the one Alan Moore thing that I've been looking forward to get in print is Tom Strong. I mean, they need to reprint that book now, you know, because I think I would so love to get a Tom Strong reprint. Oh, that needs to happen. But anyway, yeah, Grant Morrison is amazing. Grant Morrison is amazing, and he's definite inspiration.
Reprint Tom Strong for my man Ryan right now. I know you're listening, whoever the publisher of that book was. I know you're one of the 4 concurrent viewers right now.
Yeah, that needs to happen.
But
I mean, I can't believe it does. I mean, I'm sure doesn't Grant or no, Jim Lee owns the rights, right? Because it was under American, I don't know, whatever. No,
American
DC owns
Mythology?
the rights because they're using him in Terrifics.
Probably. They may have just licensed it, though. I mean, I don't know if they license characters anymore, though. They may have killed that.
I mean, really, Disney owns everything, so
True.
that's a safe bet.
True. What would they do with Tom Strong, though? I don't know. Probably nothing. I don't know. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I like it so far. Now, when you set out to start creating comics, you said that this was basically after reading stuff like the New 52 and some of the Grant Morrison stuff that you read and Kingdom Come you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
What was the clicking moment for you? When were you holding a comic in your hand and saying, I could do this? Or was it something that you came up with an idea for a story and you just realized that comic books would be the best way to tell it? Had you had any previous writing?
Not really. I didn't have really any previous writing, and I didn't really know. I never even thought of myself as doing it. It kind of just one day fell into it and started really liking it and doing it. And it doesn't come without its struggles. Like, it's not easy, but it's fun and gratifying to do. But if I had a moment like that, I think it might have been with like reading, like Grant Morrison stuff. Batman R.I.P. for sure was a moment where I was like, this is something I want to actually do because that book is so special to me. I don't know. I think it's not only just, it's such a great book because the mesh of the Tony Daniel art, and Tony Daniel's on books that are totally not like, I mean, he's a great artist, but let's just be honest. He hasn't, like, when he's working on his own books, they're not the best books ever. They're kind of like just all about the visuals. So I thought the mix of like an amazing writer and an amazing, it was just the best collaboration ever. And the story is epic. It's all about, the will of Batman. And I just really fell in love with that kind of storytelling. It's always exciting to read because there's always new things in it. And I honestly think it's like a classic that people don't appreciate enough. And that's when I really started to realize, like, I'm in a niche group of people who love Batman R.I.P. Like, this is awesome. And that was my aha moment, was like, when I really fell in love with an actual story. And that was definitely that book for sure.
I had a very similar moment, even though I'm not a comic creator. I realized probably about halfway through completing my run on readable copies of ROM Space Knight. Are you familiar with that title? I made it my personal mission.
I know ROM.
Yeah, I made it my personal mission in life to acquire a full run of ROM Space Knight. And about halfway through it, I looked down and I realized that I had gone from like one short box that I would occasionally go and just donate the majority of the contents of because I had read it and had no intention of reading it again, and just fill it back up for the next couple of months, to the point that I have a closet stacked to the top with long boxes and short boxes because I can't fit two sides of long boxes in that closet and still pull stuff out.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's still contained like that is because I believe my wife would kill me in my sleep if I started to assimilate more of the house with comic book boxes.
Yeah.
I've read
you need a shed.
Well, I don't know that there is any. I don't know that there is containing my love for the medium. I mean, it would be my ideal goal to just be like the Library of Babylon for for comic books. You know, to have at least
Yeah,
one pristine.
you got one of those cool ladders
Yeah,
with like the wheels on it, so you
One.
can go around the whole room.
Do you know how many comic books have been printed, son? I would need a dozen
Oh,
of those
yeah.
ladders. But no,
Weirdly enough, the local whiskey bar I go and play at has one of those ladders because they have like a 12-foot high wall of whiskey.
Oh man, what I would just be so scared of just dropping bottles. Hopefully they have like a trampoline underneath to catch the bourbon. But,
They don't, but the couple of bartenders there, man, those chicks are good at climbing up that ladder and grabbing bottles.
well, in any event, no, it would be my life's goal to have at least one copy of every comic book ever printed if I knew that was a feasible thing to do, which it's not. Please don't send me one copy. Just don't send me one copy of every comic book you've got. Just don't do it. I totally won't set up a P.O. box. I was about to say, I totally won't open a P.O. box to get a copy of every comic ever printed. Yeah, the only thing that would come to that P.O. box would be my divorce papers. I can't live like this. But, no,
and probably like hentai porn, knowing our audience.
Yeah, fish porn. But speaking of Neonomicon and Ellen Moore, but no,
Oh God.
I've been reading comics since I was a wee thing, like since I was about my oldest child's age, about 7 or 8, and basically since I could fluently read big words. And even before that, you know, you had your Saturday morning cartoons, X-Men, Spider-Man, that kind of thing. And it's just always been a medium that meant a lot to me, but just, you know, in my adulthood, I've realized just how important of a medium it is because, you know, you can tell a serious story like We Three. We Three is a very heart-wrenching story, even though it's about a dog, a cat, and a bunny in mech suits, basically. I mean, you would never think that you could take those trappings and tell a serious, like, intelligent, heart-wrenching story with it.
It's great. I love it. It's a great story. And Frank Quietly, of course, is like amazing.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes. And it's one of the few times where you get to actually appreciate Frank Quietly's art without having to oogle women. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's one of the few times that you get that you get that pleasure of seeing that what he can do and make everything beautiful, not just women.
And also, I think Batman and Robin, that first story arc. Oh my goodness, his art is like top notch there too.
You know, as Danielle says in the chat, good at climbing ladders or simply good to look at while climbing ladders.
Is there a difference?
I mean, that's what I said.
But no, I like it. I'm really impressed. Like I said, you really have it together. You've got a really good layout here. You're completely 100% transparent, which is not something you see a lot of. Like most people in the indie comics movement are not going to give up the name of their source on printing. They're not going to explain how they're spending their money, you know, and that's completely up to them. I don't expect to see that, but when you do see it, it makes you feel like the creator is very forthcoming. Like you've got your production laid out, you've got your printing laid out, your shipping, your fees, and your extra fulfillment. From what I can tell of the amount that you're asking for, you've already paid your guys with the Kickstarter campaign, from what I understand, based on looking at this.
Yeah, the production is pretty much over. I like in terms of money, so we're just getting some pages done, and then this is really for the shipping and shipping and reward fulfillment,
right?
Kind of thing going on, and printing, of course. Yeah, so this is what this kind of chunk is for. Yep.
So
and honestly, like. We do this rarely. You just flat out say this, but I'm definitely adding. I have a list of books. This money is up. that I'm planning on backing, and I'm definitely adding you to this list, my man. This looks fantastic. I love.
Thank you
love
so much.
It does.
everything about this.
It does.
Yeah,
And
man. I struggled on Kickstarter, and I'm happy to come over here, and I'm really happy you said that, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said,
I tend to be a bit of a Scrooge when it comes to Christmas stuff, just because it's tedious.
Yeah.
Family buying gifts for people, but if Christmas was more about nutcrackers trying to take over the planet
and Father Christmas with a lightsaber,
Santa Claus having to stop them, I would celebrate the hell out of it.
Yeah. It is yeah. I mean, it has a little something for everybody, I think. For sure.
So
People who hate Christmas too.
So what you're saying, Ayrton, is we're doing the Gospel of Comics Star Wars Christmas special this year.
Please don't make me watch that.
Oh God, that's horrible. That's not a good. Yeah.
If you're gonna make me watch that,
there's a Star Wars Christmas
Ryan
special.
Has to come back. Yeah.
Wait, I did not know that.
It's a holiday special. You don't know about this?
No, I thought we were just gonna read the original Star Wars comics and play with lightsabers during. I didn't know.
Watch out. I fell for this once playing with lightsabers. You say no, by the way, if he asks you to do that.
Why you always got to ruin my fun?
But if we have to watch the Star Wars holiday special, Ryan has to come back and watch it and review it with us.
Oh no!
Well, Danielle,
it's like the whole Art Carney thing.
Danielle said she'd
it's
be
really
here
bad.
just for your reactions alone. We might have to do that on D Live. You just hear Ayrton pouring liquor in the background and guzzling it straight from the bottle.
What are you talking about? I'm gonna have a goddamn IV of scotch going into my arm to get through the whole thing.
It's like 3 hours long, isn't it? It's like really long.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I think it's like two. I think it's like maybe like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's really long.
It's absurdly long for.
Yeah, like why? Why did it need to be so long?
I had no idea
That's
this was a
thing.
thing. Maybe I blocked it out.
It's like this. Was it the celebration of life or something like that?
Yeah, Life Day. Life Day.
Yeah, Life Day. That's what it is. You have like Chewbacca's son, and like you meet his family. It's really weird.
Yeah, it is really weird.
But not like
It's
the weird that I typically like. Like the comics that I enjoy or the movies like Rubber that I love. It's just.
Oh, he likes the worst shit. Like the things that, like, when I let him pick a book,
I
always hate myself for it.
I love bad comics and bad movies. They're
Rubber. That is a different type. Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny movie though.
It's fantastic.
He's the reason that we looked at certain things that just kind of made me go, oh God, like. I introduced him to adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, which is so bad that it's good. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. I mean, it's such a bad, like, just really weird, like, non-cohesive storyline that breaks the fourth wall well before Deadpool ever existed.
It breaks the fifth wall. What are you talking about?
Basically. But, stuff like that I can deal with, but that's his bread and butter. Like, that's the pinnacle of stuff that he likes. So I'm over here saying, all right, we've got to read Criminal, we've got to read Watchmen, we've got to read, just the good stuff that I remember. And he's like, but I got this book about birds.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
But
no,
see,
while we've got,
and I mean this as a compliment. Your book seems to fall in that kind of like weird out there category, but in a better way than typically what I make Church read when he tells me to pick something.
Yeah, for sure. It is
sense?
different. It's weird. It's a different book for sure. It's not your typical story,
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys giving me your time for sure.
Hey,
And
man.
it's been really fun chatting about it with you guys.
Oh,
Oh, well,
we definitely
thank you.
appreciate it. We've got about 20 minutes left. So if you had any questions or anything you wanted to plug, or obviously besides the Indiegogo, we'll pull that back up. If you have anything, I didn't mention your artist has a Instagram link down here that everyone should go
Yeah,
and
we
check
could
out.
check it out. Yeah, it's a really amazing. He's an amazing artist.
So,
He draws all kinds of cartoon characters, and he updates pretty much weekly. He tries to draw new ones weekly. I think he just uploaded one today. I'm not, and you know, sometimes they're American cartoons, and then sometimes they're ones from South America or some I've never even heard of, really. So it's very interesting what he.
Are you telling me we might see
Right.
some Condoritos on here?
I'm not sure, but I mean, he did.
You need to give context to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand the.
It's Ayrton. Go ahead while I pull up this Instagram.
Okay. So back in July, me and a buddy went to Peru, and while I was there, I saw some comics on a newsstand, and it was Condorito. So I bought 2 copies, and I sent one to church, and it's down in Peru, also like Bolivia, and I think like Chile and stuff. Like the condor is a big part of their culture. It's part of kind of like their trinology. You have like the snake or the serpent represents like the earth, the panther represents like human consciousness, and the condor represents like the spiritual realm. But apparently this is like some huge cartoon down in South America, Condorito. Like there's cartoons, there's comics, there's all kinds of stuff. So that's what he's referring to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's all in Spanish, which neither of us really speak. So we're still trying to. One day we will go through and
Google Translate it and review it on
yeah,
stream.
Google Translate review this Condorito comic that
sounds awesome though. Yeah, so like on his Instagram, you can kind of see like he's got a Black Desert 2, which is you can see like the zombies going on, and that is his newest venture with his like I said, his crowdfunding campaign. So he's trying to get that going, which is awesome.
I love the art style. There's Fritz from the Stone with a Wilma tattoo. That's pretty fantastic. And a Dino tattoo.
I love the jagged artwork, style that he has. That's really cool.
Wow, I haven't seen these guys in forever. The Impossibles.
Now, how did you get hooked up with this guy to do the art for your book?
Well, I was looking on ArtStation. I wasn't on DeviantArt. I kind of gave up on DeviantArt because it's really filled with
some messed up shit.
Yeah, pretty much. And after a while, you get really sick of looking at nasty stuff. Like you find there's good artists on there, but you get really sick of running into this pretty much porn essentially. And so you have to go to a better class of people, and they are at ArtStation. And basically, I just found him doing these versions of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men that were kids. And he draws kind of baby versions of them, I guess you could say.
Chibi.
And I kind of like how Scotty Young does the same sort of thing. But, and he kind of recreates famous covers and stuff like that. And I found him through that, and we just kind of hit it off, and I told him about this book, and he started doing the sketches that you see in the campaign. And ever since it's been, we've been working together on it.
That's awesome.
So I've got to spotlight this out here real quick, and then they've got a chat that I need to read. But you've got a Gorillas homage cover for Black Desert here, and that is absolutely
Yes.
fantastic. I love every second of that. Gorillas is essentially my teenage angst rolled into one musical.
Yeah. I have to say my favorite of his is Mojo Jojo, but like Michael Jackson style. Like that is like the coolest thing I think I've ever seen.
I don't
It's
know
like
that
bad.
I don't know that I've gotten to that one yet, but
Yeah, we need to find that.
Yeah, he did
I like
a whole
his-
kind of
his-
Power Ranger or Powerpuff Girls. He has she or wait, is it he?
it's him.
What's him?
Him.
Him, yeah, the weird villain. He has one of them too, and just a really, really fun stuff that he does. And it's hard not to like his artwork, because he just has so much energy. It has so much
Yeah.
energy and just fun.
And it's vibrant and really like, I don't know, not in your face, but it really like it jumps off the page at you.
Exactly. And I just knew it was so perfect for the book. I was like, this is
it
the
really
guy.
is.
Like, because I don't know, if I would have gotten someone who had a realistic style, it would have never worked. It
wouldn't
is
have
a very
translated,
specific thing you have to pull off to get this story to work. And he has every single element of it,
Oh no,
Yeah, because it's very difficult to believe, like, Nutcrackers versus Sugar Plum Fairies. Like, if it was drawn in a realistic style, I think it would definitely take away from the, I don't know. It would just not seem right. It wouldn't seem like it normal. But yeah, with the cartoony style, it's kind of believable.
In a hyper realistic style, I feel like you would have to get the writing like super over the top and satirical to kind of have that contrast to make it work.
Right.
You didn't really have any like dialogue examples, so I assume the writing is more like cartoony.
It is, for sure.
Okay.
There's your Mojo Jojo.
This is perfect.
There's your bad Mojo Jojo, Aaron.
That is awesome.
So one thing that I did have to spotlight in the chat as
That's
well.
awesome.
Matt Christie said, "I apologize. I haven't been very talkative. I'm sort of focused on my computer build. Ryan, you sound like a really genuine guy, and I wish you the best in your endeavor and your craft." And I parrot that sentiment, sir.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm going to go press 2 in the chat to second that.
There you go. But no,
Is that a thing? I'm just making that up. I don't know if that's actually a thing.
That's not a thing. The F in the chat came from the action based, decision based games. X to down,
Yeah, I know
F
that
for
one.
respects, all that
Yeah.
stuff. That's where that came from. There's no press 2 to second, but you just made it. It's a thing now.
I'm doing it. I'm making it a thing. God damn it!
You're doing it live.
That's right. We're doing it live.
But no, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a blast, and like I said, I do need to get my hands on that anthology book now. One question.
Oh yeah, me too.
One question that I asked before was, and it wasn't of you, but I've asked
Damn it, novel bro.
It's one thing that I've asked another creator who had a flexible goal on the Indiegogo. What's the likelihood that if you don't complete funding that you'll still be able to ship your product?
It's pretty likely we might have to do a couple less pages, or we might have to cut down on maybe maybe some of the small like holiday cards or stuff like that. But it's still, I think we're at 10% and it's only been 2 days. So I think we have a pretty good odds if I keep working really hard. And I've been on interview shows every single night since we launched. And so I'm just going to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely.
And
definitely.
Yeah, and I'm just going to try to work really, really hard to get that goal, because on Kickstarter I struggled. And I didn't really know quite how to do it, but at the end I had a stride, so I'm just going to get back in the stride. and kind of figure out, talk to as many people. Whoever will have me on their show, I'll be on it. That's kind of the mode I'm in right now.
Absolutely, and
Yeah, just like we'll have anybody on who wants to come on.
Exactly. Yep.
But no, you definitely build the audience, spread the book around, because, like I said, this is what I've seen in a lot of crowdfunded comics, and this is where I lean back in my chair and I hold my whiskey glass and I get a little philosophical for the last few minutes of the show. So,
he's gonna smoke a pipe. Watch out.
I am. I'm in a smoking jacket right now, and I'm not even worried about setting my beard on fire. But I've seen, a lot of these crowdfunding campaigns. I've seen a lot of indie comics over my day. I mean, I was in my formative years when Image became a thing. You know, um,
Yeah.
I still have my original Spawn #1 that I bought when I was like 12 or 13. That's where I came from, and seeing indie comics and seeing the passion that people put into them. One thing that I've noticed is that books like this, it's not your standard superhero fare. It's not something that you get when you see a Spider-Man book on the shelf. Like we've talked at length about certain storylines like Batman, R.I.P., and just the New 52 Batman and Robin, and obviously the New 52 Batman. And there are certain story arcs that do those characters great justice. But you and I can probably both agree on the fact that there is, for every good Batman story out there, since 1950, there's been a dozen awful ones.
Yes.
For every good idea somebody's had with Batman, there's been a lot of bad ones.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
That was a great idea. Shut your mouth. But when you have an independent comic book, when you have a property that you yourself have put some of yourself, your own essence into, some of your, as to make a pun, some of your Christmas spirit into.
Yes.
You come away with something that's just out of this world. You come away with something that's special, and it may not ever be worth what was the last Action #1 sold for, like 3 million, it's between $3 and $8 million. It may not ever be worth that in life as a monetary thing, but as a story, it's going to be something that you're never going to see replicated in a Spider-Man or a Batman or an X-Men or anything like that.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that you can see in a lot of these campaigns. Now there are some campaigns out there that you can look at and you can go, man, this feels like a cash grab. This feels like nothing more than trying to stir up a fan base in order to make some money. And then you look at other campaigns and you're like, this person has put their heart and soul into this project, and you can see every painstaking drop of blood that they've lost creating it. And I feel like you have one of those books here. I feel like you have one of those books where you can look at it and you can just look at the character designs, and between you and your artist, you guys have put so much thought and detail and, just, I don't know, childlike nuance into this book, and you've made it all ages while still tackling topics like war and, fighting and doubt and all of that stuff that are not necessarily easy concepts for children, but concepts that children can understand, but would also intrigue and entice adults. And I feel like that's something that's masterfully done, and you just don't get it in the mainstream comic books. And that's why I feel like this indie comic movement that we're in the middle of right now, whether it be Comicsgate, whether it be adjacent, whether it just be indie comics, we do a shill for Peter Simeti just about every show because we love Alterna and what they're doing for indie comics. And my wife, who doesn't read comic books anymore, like she keeps up with some of them, and she'll occasionally look through one, but she doesn't read comic books. And she looked through the stuff that I got for Alterna Ween, and there wasn't a one that she picked up that she didn't like. And it's something that I feel like it's just really empowering to see that the medium is thriving under this idea of independent creators putting their stories out without worrying about getting the next big Wolverine book.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're not clawing your
Yeah.
way up the ranks at Marvel or DC. You're not trying to impress anyone there. You've done your own thing, and you put your weight behind it. You put your word behind it, and that's something to be, to really be impressed by, I think. So I'm gonna get down off my
Yeah.
soapbox now, but that's my that's my
And
philosophical thought for the evening.
well, and I'm gonna take it to a different sort of vein from like the songwriter perspective. Uh, that's a very personal. Well, should be a very personal thing. Writing a song, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting kind of the deepest, darkest parts, or not necessarily darkest, but kind of the deepest parts of who you are out there, like
Mhm.
to the public. And that's how this story, at least from the artwork and the short little paragraphs you have on the Indiegogo, that's how it comes across. Like it's something very, very, very deep and personal for you. And I
Yes.
think that's something that's really gonna excuse me, it's really going to hit home and really connect with people. And
Right.
I and really, that's, to me, that's kind of the measure of pardon my accent, measure of
He just
of a
got done with
good
listening.
artist or writer.
He just got done listening to me for 2 hours, and you're gonna say, "Pardon my accent." You can go shove it, sir.
Well, apparently normal people don't say measure or orange or Florida, is what I've been told.
They don't. I'm
Apparently,
sorry. I didn't mean to
don't know.
interrupt you. I didn't mean to interrupt you when you were being thoughtful. You're apologizing for an accent that doesn't exist. You can kiss my ass.
Well, see, I was born in Atlanta. Half my family's from the South. Half is from Brooklyn, New York. So I have this weird way of talking sometimes with certain words I pronounce weird.
Yeah, you open your mouth and drivel comes out all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that as I was saying, that kind of like deeper, super personal story that this comes across is really going to connect with people in a very deep way. Like, yes. I could picture sitting, Christmas morning, if I have kids at some point, and like reading this with them, on like Christmas Eve or something like that.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what it's about. It's about it's about everything that I've wanted to say about Christmas, and all the upset days I had when I didn't get what I wanted on a Christmas morning, or it's about all the hype that I had on Christmas Eve night, couldn't wait for Santa Claus. But it's also about, people telling me Santa Claus isn't real, choosing who I need to do. Like, who do I believe? Do I believe, all these people who are telling me this isn't true? Do I, and what about Jesus? And what about, all this other conflicting Christmas stuff? So it's definitely like hard for kids to kind of comprehend that. Right. And so this is it's a story about that, So, and I think a lot of Christmas stories really speak to those ideas. And so I felt that I had to say something about it.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that I hedge all of my bets on Christmas. I put milk and cookies out by the chimney. I put a boot out on the front porch. I hang a stocking. I run outside because I'm partially Native American. I run outside naked and dance around in a circle. All of it, just to make sure that I get the socks that I want.
I put a jug of water out just in hopes that it turns into wine in the morning.
that is
But
that is
no,
awesome.
but no.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one thing, you know. Sorry, quick, since we're talking about Christmas, one thing people don't realize about Jesus is he turned the water into wine because the party was winding down and they wanted it to keep going.
Right,
And he was like, "All right, here you go."
yeah, he got Lil John to spin it around one more time. Everybody got crunk. He turned the water
Yeah.
into wine.
There's also a quote. It's something to the effect of, "He who is low in spirit, give him wine," or something like that. Like, you know, if you're sad and depressed, just drink about it.
Yeah. Well, that's just to close out on the wine thing there. I've been going through Game of Thrones again, and dear God, these guys go through some wine. Like every other page, bring me wine. Like I just wish I could live that life. You know what I mean? Be in the middle of an important business meeting. Why is there no wine?
You don't.
No, man, I'm not a soccer mom. I don't have the box in my purse all the time with the straw leading up to my mouth over the strap. I'm not like you, Ayrton.
I mean, anytime me and my boss have gone like to lunch or something like that in the middle of the day, we always get drinks. We've literally gone to our brewery after work just because why not?
But anyway,
and use the company card.
Well, I mean, you know. But anyway, and if the company that Ayrton works for listens to this, it's not that Ayrton. It's a different one because there are so many people with that name. But anyway, Ryan, thank you so much for putting up with our inane.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. This has been really fun, and yeah, I really appreciate you guys giving me the time.
Hey, absolutely.
Oh, you know, sorry, just real quick. You know, normally we do Saturdays as our kind of news segment. I just got this interesting news update that come January 1st, anybody who wears glasses will finally be able to see 2020. So that's pretty cool.
I fucking hate you. You know what? You're fired. You are completely and utterly fired. We're done. I'm not bringing you back next stream. I'm gonna get Novel Bro's Scottish ass in here. We're gonna get band together. It's gonna be awesome, and you're not invited. Anyway, guys, I definitely appreciate everybody who came out and hung out with us. Ryan, again, thank you so much, buddy, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
About Bric-a-Brac.
It's been really fun.
Everybody, Bric-a-Brac down below in the description. Indiegogo. I don't care what you're doing right now.
Please go check it out.
Go check it out. Back it. If you can't back it, share it. If all of that, any of that, just share the campaign around. Follow Ryan on Twitter. And here's my excellent host skills again. Let me make sure I got your Twitter handle correctly. Pull that up. I was not prepared. I was just hoping that our audio would play. That's really all I wanted out of this show. But yeah, go follow Ryan on Twitter at HaackPro, HAACK_pro, and yeah, keep up with the campaign there. Check out his artist on Instagram at Raphael1234HC, and until tomorrow, we will see you guys later. What? No good night?
Good night, everybody.
Okay. That's what I
just
was
said
waiting on. Okay. That's what I was waiting on. You were late. Low on the draw. Good night, guys.
What?